Compact size, big possibilities. That's the tagline. Hey guys, Ash here from C4E Tech, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Asus Zenfone 9. The Zenfone 9 is a compact flagship, something that's getting rarer and rarer with each passing year. For the last few years, Asus has been putting out compact flagships. The Zenfone 8 had a 5.9-inch panel, and this again has a 5.9-inch panel. Now, outside of the iPhone mini series, you really don't see sub 6-inch displays on a phone with flagship internals. So this kind of stands out in that way. Now, I've been using it as my primary for about a week, and let's start with, well, the build. This phone, it's thicker than its predecessor. Now, there is good reasoning behind that. The reason, well, it's got a 4300 mAh battery, 5.9-inch display, 4300 mAh. Now, the closest competition for this would probably be the Galaxy S22. And if you look at the S22, that has a 6.1-inch panel, with a 2700 mAh battery. So from a battery perspective, Asus have gone above and beyond for this. And there was this one day where I actually had to drive to Dubai for my bike service. It was really hot. It was a bad day. But then again, that was about an hour with GPS on my way there, and again an hour and a half on my way back. And I was checking out the camera. I was using a lot. I was using the phone a lot. And by the end of the day, I still had 30% juice left. So even on an intense day, well, it's not the 2-day battery life that Asus claims. One day, it's definitely gonna last. And there's a 30-watt charger that's also included in the box. So again, something over the competition, the mainstream competition. Around 60% is what you get in half hour. Now the weight, it's kept as light as its predecessor, 169 grams. So it's very, very easy on the hands, especially when you have to use it single-handed. It's fabulous. Now, yes, it is thicker, but then how did they manage to include a higher capacity battery but still maintain the weight? Now the back, they've gone to polycarbonate. It's plastic, but it's got a weird kind of finish. You could say it feels something like, not exactly the sandstone back of the OnePlus. It kind of feels like a pencil eraser kind of feel crossed with the sandstone finish of the OnePlus. It's not as rough, but it's grippy. It's got a little bit of texture for it. So it feels really nice in hand to use even when you use it without a case. And now, if you want a case, that is one included in the box. It's a hard case, but pretty weightless, and it kind of gets the job done. Now this back, they say they've got this kind of finish so that it doesn't scratch as much as say glossy plastic finishes. So it is a negative, the fact that it doesn't have a metal back or a glass back. But then again, from a weight perspective and the fact that they've spent that extra weight towards the battery, I kind of like that. Now, other things, they've not compromised with the build. It still has IP68 water and dust resistance, and it's got something most other flagship phones don't: a headphone jack. The output via this is pretty good. I did try it out with a couple of wired headphones I have, and it sounds really good. Talking about sounding good, there are stereo speakers. You've got one to the bottom, you've got one, the earpiece to the top, doubling as a stereo speaker. So it is not exactly the same kind of output from both, but the overall audio output, the experience is quite good. Now to the front, we've got Corning's Gorilla Glass Victus covering it. And as far as the back goes, you get 4 colors. This is the black, the one I like the least, because it's very muted, very subtle, very stealthy. Barring this, if you want something a little bit more in your face, you've got that red, then there's also a blue and a silver. Now something I've seen about the red variant in particular is that the color, there is discoloration that starts up within a few weeks of using it. So longevity wise, I don't know, maybe black would be the right version to choose. And when you turn it on, this wallpaper, it really looks cool. They've got a lot of nice little live wallpapers that don't really drain your battery. Generally with live wallpapers, because the wallpaper is constantly moving, it does have an adverse effect on battery life. But over here, if you look at it, the wallpaper kind of, it's got that live effect for it when you turn it on, but then it's pretty static after that. So it's kind of good for the battery, but at the same time, every time you turn it on, it's got that little bit of a lively feel for it. Now this display, like I said, it's 5.9 inches, it's OLED, it's a full HD plus panel, so pixel density of about 445 pixels per inch. This is not an LTPO panel, so that is a negative. So it can't drop all the way down to 10 or 1 Hertz. But at the same time, you get to choose between 60, 90 and 120 Hertz, or leave it on auto where it toggles between these automatically to conserve battery life. Now at 120 Hertz, it's very smooth to use. The touch response is 240 Hertz. The brightness It's 450 nits as a manual max, 800 on auto. It can go all the way up to 1100 nits when displaying HDR content. It has support for HDR10 Plus, and they even allow for always on functionality. Now with always on, there's only 4 options to choose from, so it's not as varied as you'd get with certain other brands. But then again, it's there, it's effective. You can see your information being displayed without actually having to turn the phone on. So yeah, it is what it is. Okay, we've seen the build. Let's now move on to what's under the hood. What makes this phone really special is the fact that it's not just a compact phone. It's a compact phone with top-of-the-line internals. It's got the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 powering it. It's paired with 8, 12 or 16 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM, 128 or 256 gigs of UFS 3.1 storage. And as you can see, the performance, it's really good. Now, again, I'm not gonna say it's at the same level as the ROG Phone 6 or 6 Pro, because it really isn't. That's a much larger phone. Yes, this one has a bigger cooler than its predecessor, but the ROG is gonna blow it away. To put that into numbers, on a CPU throttle test, it performed quite admirably, throttling down to only 85% even after 20 minutes, or 15 minutes rather. But then again, with GPU, the stability scores on 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme stress test was 53%. The ROG on the other hand had around 80+% on this. So it's not gonna be as good for consistent gaming. No compact phone is gonna be. So that was expected, but you can get a fair amount of gaming done if gaming is not your primary focus. Now, even after those stress tests, now this footage, the infrared camera footage you're seeing was shot after the stress test. And as you can see, it didn't really get hot. It never felt uncomfortably hot in hand or even uncomfortably warm in hand. So from a performance perspective, Asus have done a damn good job. Now, while I've said a lot of good things about this phone, it isn't without its negatives. No phone is, right? So for starters, one big thing is it does not have wireless charging. So typically phones in this segment, you could expect wireless charging, but this one doesn't. That's something that the Galaxy S22 does better. Secondly, with the optics, there are 2 cameras, 2 really excellent cameras, but that's the primary and the ultra wide. There is no telephoto. So that's something you're gonna have to compromise on. And thirdly, this is becoming more and more commonplace these days. It does not have expandable memory. Off the top of my head, I'd say Sony still does expandable memory on their flagships, but then Sony has a whole different set of issues. Their thermals, oh my God, don't get me started on that. And Huawei, they have their own set of issues and they don't do micro SD, but they continue to offer nano memory. But barring that, I don't think any other brand, if you guys know of any other brand that offers micro SD on their flagships, let me know. So this doesn't have that. Talking about the cameras, since we did touch upon them, primary is a 50 megapixel Sony IMX766. Now some people call this a mid-range sensor because it's been used on a bunch of mid-range phones, but it's also been used on flagship phones like the Find X5 Pro, which was a camera focused flagship, and it did perform really well on it. So with the IMX766, it's more of what ISP it's associated with, what kind of software is behind everything that makes or breaks the kind of results we get with it. And over here, Asus have done really well, because as you've been seeing with these pictures, they're beautifully exposed. There's a lot of detail. The dynamic range is excellent. Now the highlight here is not how good these images look. It's the fact that the primary camera sensor has 6-axis gimbal stabilization. So what is gimbal stabilization? With typical OIS, you get about 1 degree that it compensates for. With gimbal stabilization, it compensates for 3 degrees. So when you look at footage like this is 4K 60 FPS that I shot. Everything is so smooth, right? Now, as far as video goes, it can shoot 4K 60, hell, it can even shoot 4K 120 for slow-mo or 8K 24 if you want that. So shooting videos with this, it's going to be a great experience. There are certain accessories, like for example, there's a slip-on for the back that Asus is selling that lets you kind of take the phone out and shoot what you want and then let it just snap back to your backpack. So if you're somebody who's into vlogging or a lot of traveling and don't want to carry a brick of a phone, then this might be the compact camera focused phone that you're looking for. The secondary, again, they've gone for a good sensor here, the Sony IMX363, which is the primary sensor on the Pixel 6a. They've got that paired with an ultra wide lens. This one also has autofocus, so you can shoot close-ups with the ultra wide if you need to. And what I really love is how they've matched the colors of the ultra wide and the primary. So that way, with software, Asus have done really well. To the front, we have yet another Sony sensor, the IMX663, 12 megapixels. This can shoot 4K 30. It again has autofocus, so you don't have to be really picky on how you're framing yourself. You can be assured that you're going to be in focus. Okay, let's now move on to software. And the Zenfone 9, it runs on Zen UI built on top of Android 12. Now, there are a lot of things I like about the software here. First off, Zen UI is not bloated. It's one of the lightest interfaces you can find. Asus makes very few changes here. A lot of things are left stockish, right from the notification panel to how the home screen looks. There's a lot of stock elements at play here. Now, that doesn't mean it's without any kind of extras. For example, the power button here, it doubles as a fingerprint scanner. Oh yeah, at this point, let me just quickly walk you through the phone. Power button, volume keys, secondary mic, headphone jack, nothing to the left, and to the bottom is where you have the primary speaker, USB Type-C port, primary microphone, and the SIM tray. Now, I really love how the SIM tray is. It curves to one edge, which means you're never going to be confused on how to actually put the SIM tray in. To think of it, it's pretty smart how they've done this. And beat it up, the sides are all metal. Anyways, now coming back, this key, the power key, it doubles as a fingerprint scanner. It's pretty quick. It's actually the fastest fingerprint scanner that I've come across. As you can see, just a tap. I just need to literally just touch it and it unlocks. See? So yes, I was a little bummed out initially that there is no in-display fingerprint scanner, but then given how fast and accurate this is, can't really complain. Now, there are more things you can do with this power key. They call this the smart key functionality. You can have it set to do a bunch of things on, say, double press. So for me, I have it set to launch the calculator app on double press. For long press, I just have it bring up the power menu. You can set it to do other things, but to me, it's the power key. Let it do its damn thing. I really hate it when brands have it remapped to trigger Google Assistant or something, making just pressing power a huge chore. Anyways, that's just me, my pet peeve. Now, other things you can do with it include swiping to do something. For example, here we have swipe set to scroll to the end or the top of the page. But then this one I found a little finicky, so I usually turn it off. Talking about things I found finicky, double tapping the back to perform certain actions. For example, okay. See, you can turn the flashlight on and off, but it works. While it works, sometimes I accidentally trigger it. So again, this is something I leave off. But if you want to use it, it is available. The edge tool is another thing. It's kind of like what you see on Samsung phones. There's this little bar that pops up from the side that lets you quickly launch floating windows for a little bit of extra multitasking. And of course, your regular split screen multitasking is also available. Now guys, you do understand that the focus of this phone is the fact that it's compact. It's single-hand use friendly. So if you still aren't comfortable using this single-handed, well, you can just swipe over here and everything comes down, kind of like reachability. If you have small hands and you still can't reach all four corners, then this could be very useful for you. Game Genie that we saw on the ROG phone, that's available here too. So you can choose between ultra durable, dynamic, high performance modes right from here. You can adjust the brightness, the volume, the refresh rates, speed things up, record the screen, your regular stuff. All that is accessible right from this overlay that can be triggered by a swipe from the edges. Guys, as much as I love the software on this phone, there is one big issue with it, an elephant in the room, so to say. And no, that is not self-deprecating crap that I'm spewing. What I really don't like about the software is the fact that how long they're supporting it. Asus has promised 2 major upgrades to Android versions and at least 2 years of security patches. How I see this is as, well, if the phone does sell well enough, you're going to throw in resources and support it past the 2-year point. If it doesn't, well, it's 2 years and done. Now, for a phone that's a flagship with a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, which means it has a more powerful chip than the Galaxy S22 Ultra, for a phone that's got that kind of high specs and also has a price to match, which we will come to in a bit, 2 years seems a little bit on the lower end of the spectrum. I feel at least 3 years should have been promised by Asus, because this leaves a little bit of a sour taste in the mouth. So anyways, that is the negative. Now the pricing, well, this one, it's starting at $699 in the US. Indian pricing, we don't have any confirmation on that. Hell, we don't even have any confirmation on if this one is launching in India. So the US pricing is $699, which was $100 more than what the Zenfone 8 launched at. Now, if you look at the Indian pricing of the Zenfone 8, that, if I can remember, launched at $43,000. So that would make you guess this should launch at $50, $52. But I'd expect it to launch higher because the Zenfone 8 had launched very late in India. And the later you launch a phone in its life cycle, the lower the costs are. If the Zenfone 8, for example, did launch in India when it launched globally, I would have expected for it to be priced higher. So I would say this phone, if it launched in India, it should be closer to the 60,000 mark rather than 50. Again, that's just my guess. There is no official confirmation of it even launching in India at this point. Anyways, even at that price point, at that $600 price point, the Zenfone 9, it feels like one hell of a phone if you like compact phones. Now, if you are someone who likes using larger phones, and then yes, there are things that this phone doesn't offer. For example, wireless charging or a Quad HD display or a telephoto camera for that matter. But if you want a compact phone and you feel the iPhone mini is a little too small for your liking, which is exactly the demographic I fit under, because I really like compact phones, but the iPhone mini is a little too small for me, especially with the way the operating system is moved and the scaling with apps. It just feels like there is not enough that I can see on screen, which isn't the case here at all. So this is the perfect small phone for me. I haven't come across a phone that's been as compact in the past but has offered so much and is such a good all-round package, and that is something that Asus have done, and I'm really happy to see this niche continue. What do you guys think about this phone? Is this something you see yourself paying $600 or $699 or let's say 60,000 rupees for? What do you think is a fair price for this? What do you think Asus should have done differently with it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, we are at the end of today's review video. Thumbs up, thumbs down based on whatever you felt about it. Subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that bell icon if you haven't yet. And thanks for your time, thanks for watching. Until next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4E Tech, and I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.